So, welcome to the Patriarchy Podcast, where Christian husbands become respected leaders. How are you doing, and what's the situation with your marriage?
uh, Situation with my marriage. I've got three kids now, a newborn as of a month ago. We've been married for 4.5 years, and I'm just here to see what I can do about past conflicts we've had and how to prevent them in the future.
All
Uh,
right. So, life's been busy recently, then, a lot of big changes.
yeah, a lot of big changes, and going from two to three kids—that's something else. I'll say that. Um,
What have you noticed about it?
uh, no sleep, no sleep, and it's funny to look at your own kids and be like, wow, we're busy now.
Mm,
Yeah, I haven't really thought about that, how to put that quite into words.
yeah. Well, that's what these calls are for. And definitely, as your families grow, the pressure on you goes up, right? You have more duties, more responsibilities, and that can expose any weaknesses in you as the leader of the family, but also it can lead to more conflicts between you and your wife.
Um, yeah, we've had a bunch of conflicts, and they seem to have been repeating, not necessarily new ones since the baby's been born. Just sort of stuff that's been repeating itself over and over again. We are, like, between my wife and I, we're settled now, like present moment, but I gotta figure some way to make this not continue repeating itself in the
Mm,
future.
sure. It's important to recognize, though, that a lot of arguments in marriage are actually just ones that reoccur. There's a stat on this that says around 60 to 70% of arguments never really go away. You just learn to manage them better because some of them do just stem from a lot of the unavoidable stresses that come with trying to raise a family. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. One in particular I wanted to bring up was had to do with respect. Like, uh, I can't manage to gain any respect when we're in the middle of a fight. Um, she will go as far as calling me every name she can think of to make me feel down, to put me down in any way possible. Um, and personally, I think it's got to do with how she was raised. I think it's got to do with her father being absent for most of her childhood. She doesn't know how to respect a man, and her mother talked down to her father, and that's why her father was never around.
Mm.
I think that's a pattern that's happening here. Uh,
Yeah, how does that typically go when you're in an argument and you're feeling really disrespected? How does that play out between you two?
Not very good. It starts off with her calling me names, trying to provoke me, and I try my best to keep my cool and not let it get to me. But I gotta be honest, she's pretty good at getting to me.
Right.
um, it turns into a yelling match by the end of it, to the point where I walk away because I just don't want this to be seen by the children. And we come back to it either 6 hours later or the next day or a couple days later. The problem I have is it's always me going to going to resolve things. It's never
Mm.
her. I messed up. Like, why
Right.
should, it's always me seeking peace. Uh,
When you say that she's pretty good at getting to you and pushing your buttons in these arguments, what are some of the ways in which she gets to you? Have you got particular topics that you get sensitive about?
um, yeah, like, I'll be honest. I've had a bit of a problem with alcohol. I'd get drunk maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, and I've I've noticed since talking to some friends and family that yes, this has been a problem. So I I recognize that and I put the brakes on that. And I thought, okay, well, you know what, this is gonna solve a lot of problems in our marriage. And and then if it's not, so since being good with that or a lot better with that, I thought, okay, yeah, it's going to be great. And well, it hasn't. It went from alcohol being the problem to my friends being the problem, and the exact same arguments happening over again in the
Mm,
exact.
right. So
So
one thing that could be useful here is assume that in the comments that get to you, there's a grain of truth, which is why they get to you.
I'm trying to remember exactly. You know, she'll call me effeminate. Uh, she listens to your podcast, the CMAS podcast, and so do I. And that word is thrown around quite a bit there. And so that word gets to me because that's that's slander in not your language, but the Catholic world, right? Um, so that bugs me, and you know, even even if it wasn't something that hurt me, the fact that she's saying it is insulting.
Mm. Well, let's take that example then. So if she's saying that you are effeminate and maybe she's got in mind the drinking that she's witnessed in the past, can you recognize a grain of truth in that?
Yeah, yeah, I can, and I recognize that it's a problem and it needs to go away, which has been going very well lately. Um,
That's good.
yeah, but
Now,
exactly as I predicted that these problems aren't or this pattern isn't going away just because the problem is going away.
yeah. Well, the feelings take a while to go, right? Feelings of resentment and feelings of bitterness and frustration that have built up sometimes over many months or even years, they can take a while to fade. And you might feel that removing the immediate cause of the problems, getting drunk every couple of weeks or every week, should produce an instant result. But really, it's about rebuilding trust, isn't it? And about showing the change through your actions long term. So you can sympathize with the fact that it's not like an on off switch that you can suddenly flip.
Yeah. Another thing would be libido, which I'm sure is tied in somewhat with this, but she's only been able to orgasm twice since we've been married. Uh, been married 4.5 years. So do you think that that's a me problem, or do you think she should seek medical attention for that?
So, those two times, did they have anything in common?
Um, for being fertile?
So, around the time she was ovulating, right? Okay. Well, that might be to do with relaxation or being more receptive to sex or being more excited about it. How much effort are you putting into foreplay before you even get into the bedroom? So things like making her feel relaxed and having more of an extended build up, because that's often an area where husbands need to do more work.
I suppose I could do a little more, but yeah, I even when I have put in an hour, 2 hours of talking with her and spending time with her beforehand, uh, made a little bit of a difference, but not tons because time time the kids are in bed, time you have time to do that, you're just too tired to get too excited about anything.
Mm. Well, that might be one of the big things to work on. You noticed when you were going from 2 to 3 kids that it was a lot more tiring. Now, apart from having low self-esteem due to worries about body image, tiredness is the other big thing that really dampens a woman's libido. So you might feel like putting in an hour or two of flirting and conversation as foreplay is enough. But really, it might be something you need to think of, not in terms of 1 to 2 hours, but 1 to 2 days, or even maybe a whole week of trying to turn the stress down in her life so that she's more relaxed. Because if she doesn't feel sexy, then she's not really going to want to act sexy in the bedroom either. And then that lack of relaxation and engagement is going to affect her ability to get aroused. When you're thinking about a woman's nervous system, basically, you want to induce that kind of relaxation so that she gets out of fight or flight the whole time. And women can feel like that when life is really busy and they're tired and there are a lot of demands on their time and attention. You got to get her out of fight or flight into basically relax and receive. And too often, guys think that this is something that can be done fast because men can get aroused relatively quickly just by, seeing your wife step out of the shower naked or whatever. You might think, right, let's go, time for sex. But that's not really the way the women's minds and bodies work. So I would start thinking more in terms of maybe a 1 week time frame to really set the mood. Ask her what's on her mind, what's she worried about, what kind of things are imposing stress on her, what does she find most tiring. And it might not feel like foreplay to you, but really what you're doing there is being generous with your time and your attention, and you're honoring her through showing an interest in her life and how you can be her protector in all those kinds of ways. And that might have a far bigger impact than anything else you can do.
Mhm. Yeah, apart from that, I don't have much else to talk about.
That's all right. So, can you think of any other examples of recent conflicts that are on your mind? You mentioned the drinking, that's a big one. And she's right about the effeminacy because all that word means, I mean, it sounds flashy, but it basically means a man who lets his own selfish pursuit of pleasure get in the way of him doing his duties. So a drinking habit is an example of effeminacy. And I like the fact you were honest enough to recognize there's some truth in that. And that's what made it get to you. And if you can listen and recognize that even in criticism from her that is worded harshly, there's a grain of truth. She's really trying to do you a favor by talking to you about it because she loves you and she wants you to improve so the marriage gets better. So try to stay calm, don't get defensive, recognize the truth in what she's saying, and also say you understand how she's feeling, right? I can see that you're upset about this. I understand how you must feel that way. What you don't want to do is go back at her and say that her feelings aren't real or dismiss them and say they're stupid. As far as possible, recognize the truth in what's being said. Tell her you understand her feelings are real. Let her vent it all. And then you lead the way out. You find the solution. She brings the problems, you bring the solutions. So we talked about that stuff with the example of the drinking and the effeminacy. But have there been any other conflicts? Or is it just that?
No, there have been other conflicts. The main repeating factor here is that I am always, well, first the name calling coming from her end, then it's ghosting from her end. So she'll ignore me. She won't look at me and she'll let go on for weeks if I allow that. So I'm always the one seeking the solution, or seeking peace, I can say. She, even though maybe it's her fault in the conflict, it's still me going to her to find the solution. It's never her saying, "Oh, look, I shouldn't have done this," or like, not until I force it upon her, almost not forced upon her, but I'm the one approaching her, and she, and then talking about it, and then she'll finally recognize that, okay, she made this mistake, but I have to point it out to her.
How do you feel about that?
I very much don't like that.
Why is that?
Because it shows lack of accountability, and it shows that I'm trying harder in this relationship than she is. She doesn't care.
Mm. But you're the leader, right? So if you two are in a bad mood with each other and there's been an argument, it makes sense that you should be the one to lead the way out of it. And if she's stuck in her feelings still, you don't want to be like that too. Otherwise, you're just going to be like another woman stuck in her feelings. Someone has to be the one to lead the way out. And that's what men do. Men lead. And if that means you making that first move to get past the argument, that's fine, right?
I had a different idea this entire marriage. I thought, okay, if you mess up, you need to come and say something. The way I was raised.
Mm. So you want her to apologize before anything else can happen?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, yeah.
Thing with that is that it means that she has to feel sorry for you, right? Well, I'm sorry I said this and hurt your feelings. And it really makes everything about your feelings. And do you really want to be seen as a guy that she has to feel sorry for? Like you're the victim and she's got this great power to wound you when she's in a bad mood and says some words like effeminate. You want her to see you as someone she has to feel sorry for, and only she has the power to be able to improve your mood so that you're willing to move forward and start building.
No, I don't want that. Interesting way to look at it.
It's the true way to look at it because it means that you're basically sulking. You're sulking and you want her to come and give you some kind words because her mean words ruined your day, your week, your month. Some guys live like this for years, right? One argument can ruin a decade. Oh, that time when you called me fat, right? Get over it. Best way to do it is just to say, I forgive you for when you said, whatever it was, XYZ. Here's some solutions to whatever we were arguing about then, whatever that problem was, right? I forgive you. We're going to move forward. Here's what we're going to do. Thanks for being with me on this. If you got any more ideas about how we can handle this better, let me know. Then, rather than just sitting around complaining and sulking, you're actually leading the way out properly. And you got to understand that some of what she says in the moment that upsets you, don't take it too personally, right? As a man, it's important to have the memory of a goldfish sometimes because women can get impulsive, be volatile, and say things that, if you let them really dig into you, can fester. And they basically turn you into like a bitter little bitch yourself. And scripture warns against this. We're told, husbands, love your wives and be not bitter towards them. Colossians 3:19. Be not bitter towards them. It's such a deep, profound warning because bitterness and masculinity don't really go together, right? When you're bitter, you're also petty. Small things can really cut you down and break you because you see yourself as a small guy. But if you just brush them off, you've got bigger things to worry about. She was having a bad day. It was her period, whatever. She said a few words. No big deal. And you can let her know that in the future, you expect better and you don't think it's healthy for the two of you to disrespect each other. But you don't want to hand her all that power that only her apology can help you heal and move forwards. Forgiveness is far more masculine, it's far bigger, and gives you stronger frame in the marriage. Can you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. I like it.
So, no bitterness, right? Always be building rather than being bitter. Let the emotional volatility, when it comes, and it will, come from her, and see it mainly as signs of weakness and tiredness and stress and thoughtlessness, rather than any kind of real cutting malice that's supposed to attack you as a man. And when she does say something which cuts, like the effeminacy, open yourself up. Let it cut as far as it will go, because the truth is going to hurt you at first before it heals you. And she knows you better than you know yourself in some ways. So let those words sink in to the extent that you do recognize truth there. And she's bringing problems to you that you need to find the solutions to. Too often, guys obsess about this idea of being disrespected. It's much better for you to just focus on doing your duty and also forgiving her for when she speaks out of turn, while also letting her know that that isn't a standard that you want to let slip. So you can be firm, but you can also forgive and move on. Anything that makes you resent her or makes you bitter is going to be doing damage to your marriage. So it's not a good tone for you to set as the leader because it's not taking you in a good direction.
Um, Kind of a less important topic here. What do you think about friends? So I've come across this Serbian group. They're all Orthodox guys. Here I am, the only Catholic. Um, one guy in particular, he mentioned his body count of over 400. And I said, "Oh gosh, you better go to confession." And he kind of laughed. And then since then, he's actually been going to church, not the Catholic Church, to the Orthodox Church. Um, I think they're a good salt of the earth bunch of people. My wife doesn't think so because I told her about that statement. Um, like, what do you think as far as hanging out with friends? Like, she's got very bad feelings about this group, and she's worried that I'm going to become one of them. Um, which I can see where she's coming from there.
Mm.
She's never met them personally. I think that they're they mean well.
Were they encouraging you drinking?
They were, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
bad sign, right? So for you, that group of friends, if they encourage drinking, is likely to be an occasion of sin. If you feel that your drinking is interfering with your duties as a husband, as a father, for many guys, if they're flirting with alcoholism, even just the financial drain on the family from the drink is a problem, let alone the time and the energy. So take a good hard look at it and think, look, is alcohol an occasion of sin for me? If so, then those friends are because they're going to encourage it. And that's your answer right there. I don't know the details of all of that. You do. It might be that there's some truth again in what she's saying. The other bigger question is I'm sure you're a busy guy with your normal job, 9 to 5 or whatever it is. You need to have a look at how you spend your time when you're not at work. What does it say about your priorities? For a guy with a young family and a full time job over the week, after you've really taken care of business properly at work and also at home, there aren't many hours left. especially if you're doing things like hitting the gym, staying in shape. You got church as well. It's kind of precious time. Now, how much of that do you want to spend with these guys who are going to encourage you to drink? How much of it could you spend with your wife instead, improving your connection with her? Or how much of it could you spend with some mutual friends? All I'm saying is be very aware of how you're allocating your time because it reveals a lot to her about what you really value and prioritize. And you might be communicating some messages to her that actually you don't want to be sending out because of the way it makes her feel about how much you care about the marriage. Now, what is it you really get from that group of friends? Ask yourself. Assume there's no alcohol involved at all. Are they helping you become a better man? Are they helping make your marriage better? What's the friendship about? Be on your guard. Maybe there's some good stuff there, right? But maybe there's some bad stuff too.
The majority of the guys are 60 plus widowers, and they have almost zero responsibility because their kids are growing up. Their wives are passed away, and they're just there for the sake of friendship alone.
How old are you?
I'm 32.
Okay. 32. Hanging out with guys who, you said they're in their 60s?
Yeah, 60 to 70.
Yeah. With no wives and no family responsibilities. I'm already thinking, especially if you add them encouraging drinking into the mix, that is probably not the best use of your time. You could probably find a better group of friends to support you in excelling in your duties right now. If you really take a good hard look at that, just like the black and white of the situation on paper, age 32, busy growing family, guys in their 60s, no wives, kids all grown up, encouraging the younger guy to drink. I can't see how that benefits you much in terms of growing in virtue, especially if they're making jokes about having body counts of 400 and stuff like that.
He's the only exception.
Right.
He's the only guy my age, and the rest are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also a friendship utility.
Yeah.
I get work through them. Well, same business. Pass on.
Mm-hmm.
Beneficial that way. So I do want to keep it good with them. I just, yeah, I need to spend a little less time on there.
Yeah. If it's partly business and they're bringing money your way so you can support your family, fine. But keep tabs on how many hours a week it is. And if there's alcohol involved, just say no. You've got more important things to do. But I'm not saying cut off completely from them right now. I'm just saying, based on what you told me, on the face of it, it doesn't seem like it's likely to help you grow in virtue. And you need to approach it with caution and just be more conscious of how you're spending your time when you're not at work in general. A lot of guys just aren't aware of that. And if they actually look at how they spend their time, it reveals things to them about their priorities that they need to look at more carefully. It's very easy for your family to slip down the ladder of things that you're focused on, and especially for your wife to end up even below your own kids, right? So I would start doing that each week. Just make a note. What did I spend my time on? Why did I do that? Is that taking me to where I want to get to? Have I got the habits in place now that are going to get me where I want to be in a year, 5 years, 10 years? That's part of just staying awake. not sleepwalking into some kind of disconnection from your wife. Did any of that hit home?
Yeah, it all does. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, look, thanks for sharing everything today. I think that a lot of people listening will be in similar situations. So it's great for us to be able to help them out. And I hope to speak to you again sometime soon. Keep me updated about how things progress. Don't make any big changes right now, but definitely worth thinking about a few things that we've talked about.